If you're a social worker who's quietly panicking about your job right now under the new administration, I want you to know you're not alone. The jobs you used to get super easy are disappearing. You know, the case management jobs where you find them because they have social work, social worker, MSW degree in the job description. You apply on Monday, they're bringing you in on for an interview on Wednesday and you're starting 2 weeks later. Those jobs are being phased out, eliminated, or blended into other positions, largely because federal policies are being changed, funding is being eliminated or shifted, and the need to serve your participants or clients literally is no longer going to be a thing. And so, for the first time in your career, you're being asked to compete in a job market that was never built for you, a job market that does not have opportunities readily available, clearly identified for social workers. And so, because of that, in this episode, I want to speak directly to you, the high achieving social worker who feels like everything is shifting, but no one prepared you for what's next. And before we get started, the first thing I want you to understand is that it's not just you. I'm going to keep repeating it. I want you to know that you're not behind. You're not doing anything wrong. You just weren't trained to navigate this type of job market, right? So today I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why the current state of the social work job market feels so uncertain for you and give you a takeaway about what your next step should be. Okay. So the first thing is you were trained to serve and not to compete. So historically, most case management jobs hire you super quick. You see the job one day, and you largely identify that it's a job for a social worker because in the job post they have social work, social worker, case management, clients, therapy, terms like that. You apply on Monday, they're interviewing you by Wednesday. On Friday, they're giving you a job offer, and most likely you're starting 2 weeks later. And we all know that a large part of the reason why you get those jobs with such ease and quickness is because people doing this type of work, case management work, is in high demand, right? So because it's historically always been a super simple process for you, even if you didn't necessarily fully align with the jobs, you never had to learn how to effectively compete in the job market outside of the world of social work, right? You just showed up with your credentials, all of the letters after your name, and they made you an offer. But the truth is, now the field is requiring something different. It's requiring strategy. It's requiring you to be able to effectively identify jobs outside of organizations that are being funded by federal dollars. It's requiring you to have strategy to be able to compete against other degree type holders for positions that never really ever considered social workers of any kind. And so, because you're now required to do all of this, and honestly, it's come about in the last 5 months since the beginning of the new administration, it feels terrifying to you, right? When you never had to think like this before, or work this hard to get a job, or experience so many no's, or not even know where to start, it feels terrifying because the truth is, fear of the unknown is a scary thing. So the reality is, right now, there are dozens, if not hundreds, thousands of social workers who feel exactly the way you're feeling. They are afraid. They are scared about what will job opportunities look like for them throughout the next 4 years. And so I want you to know that again, it's not your fault. However, The responsibility is yours to learn how to effectively navigate the job market, especially in settings and organizations that are outside of the normal place where social workers work. Because the truth is, in light of the new administration, all of the changes that are flowing down from it, it's going to require that you get super creative to find aligned employment. Now, this conversation today is not for the social worker who is just like, I will take any job. Even though I'm a social worker, I will work in tech, right? I will take a very super technical job. This conversation isn't for that person. This conversation is for the systems thinker, the person who thrives in multidisciplinary settings, the person who's always wanting to know why, the why behind the work, the person who thinks deeper about their contributions and who wants some type of meaning or purpose behind the work that they do in the world. This is for you. The second reason why you feel afraid during this time is because your job wasn't secure, right? Your case management job never was secure. It was just low barrier, right? You always felt stable, but it was because your program was funded by grants, contracts, and government budgets that are now being slashed. What's happening isn't new, it's just catching up. And you are finally feeling the effects of it. So, what I mean by that is the truth is your job was always shaky. You just never felt the impact of it because the organizations, the nonprofits, the community-based organizations, the mental health centers, the hospital systems, they always had backups to either the grants, the contracts, the funding that they were receiving. But what happens when all of those alternative options are removed? It then makes the organization super vulnerable to not being able to financially sustain themselves as an organization, but your position as a piece in the delivery of what they do. So I want you to know that even though in the past years you thought your job was stable, right? You thought your government job was a good government job, it was stable, or your nonprofit or your clinical job was stable. It never was because it was always dependent upon time limited funding. It could have went away at any moment if your organization didn't submit the documentations in time to get the renewals of the funding, if your organization decided to shift and go a different direction, your job never was stable. It just was a low barrier to entry, right? Meaning that you had too many other like variables that come into play that really leave you in a place of uncertainty when it comes to job stability. I want to be clear that no job is 100% secure. However, when you are working in organizations, just as an example, that have alternative revenue streams where they are able to generate funds over and beyond like funds that have real strict stipulations and guidelines attached to them, they are able to provide a little more stability because they know how to generate revenue. They know how to generate the money even when it's not given to them through a federal mandate. And when you're with organizations like that, it really is an innovative approach to the work. I always tell the story how my first case management job, this is how I learned about organizations that have fee for service revenue streams. And that became one of my non negotiables to be with organizations with CEOs who thought in that way, who thought enough to understand that we need a fee for service model in place. So, in case our funding gets cut, and we are now here. All of this is 2011, 2012 for me, probably a little bit later. But we're now here because our CEO was like, if something happens, we need to be able to generate revenue so we can keep our people and keep our doors open. But if you're with an organization who never thought in that way and who was riding on the coattails of getting another grant or getting additional funding, that had a low barrier of success, of susceptibility. Your job was never secure, right? So I wanted to name that for you, that even when your job felt secure, it was not. And these are things that I teach my coaching clients, right? The third thing is the opportunities are still there. The job opportunities are still there for social workers, but the process to get them is different. Macro jobs, system level jobs, strategic roles, they still exist, but they require you to do more than upload a resume and hope, pray that your letters after your name is sufficient enough to catch someone's attention. They require you to do more than just ride on the status of being a social worker. They require that you have clarity around the types of jobs that you want to do. They require storytelling and being able to effectively package up your experience in a way that is beneficial to an employer and sell it to them, right? I always talk about quantifying your experiences, and it requires alignment. It requires you to be clear about your non negotiables. It requires you to be clear about what your long term and short term goals are. It requires you to be clear about your values, because what desperation will lead you to is a situation where you are in a job or working with an organization where you don't agree with anything that they're doing. You don't agree with the way they do the work. You don't agree with the people that they're serving. You don't agree with and that is the worst place for a mission driven professional like you to be. So this time where we are in the job market requires you to be very intentional. It requires you to sit still long enough to get clear about what it is that you need. Because the truth is, you didn't do that the first time around. For many social workers, what I've learned is that they became social workers based on where they were at that point in time in life because it was a basic need situation, meaning I just need a job. And all of the jobs I keep looking at, they keep talking about a social work degree. Or my friends and family keep telling me I need a social work degree, or I need a license, and I need a blah, 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 blah. However, because you're in a different space in your life, your needs are different. Your basic needs are met. You have a home, you own a car, you pay down your debt, you have savings, you have good credit, you have all of those things. And so now that's why the lure of a case management job or being demoted back to case management work or direct practice work doesn't sit well with you anymore, because you have superseded the need of basic need. I talked about this recently on an Instagram post. How do I know all of this? Because I went through the same thing myself. Back in the day, I used to go after call center jobs. Why? Because I was trying to make money to feed my baby and feed me. So that meant if I know how to get a call center job, I'm just going to keep applying to them. But then it got to a point where, okay, I realized that I know how to get call center jobs. I realized that I know how to make money. I'm going to step outside the box and go get something that I really, really want to do, right? I'm going to advance myself, yes, to make more money, but also because my immediate needs had shifted. I was moving into a space where I was trying to, like, we're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Y'all know what that is. I was trying to move into security. Security was never an issue for me. I always lived in stable, safe housing. I always had as secure as possible vehicle. Because it was a lot of years where I drove a raggedy PT Cruiser and a Nissan Sentra. But I was moving quickly to self-actualization. I was trying to. right? I had shifted the way that I thought. I shifted the way I was viewing things. These are the early stages of my transition in life, right? And it was really me forward planning. Even though technically on paper, I probably hadn't achieved all of the levels in between, right? But I knew that one day I would, and that I needed to do work to catch my reality up with my dream. So because my goal was self-actualization, I want to be doing a line work. I want to do work that's meaningful. I already know the money gonna come because I already know how to get jobs. At that time, I could get jobs with my eyes closed, right? So because my need shifted, the types of the jobs that I went after shifted. So I say that to say that when you shift like that based on where you are in life, it requires you to learn and adopt a new process if you don't already have a process mastered that works for you. And the truth is, and I'm not being funny, and I know I like to laugh, but if you listening to this podcast episode, your process ain't working for you. Okay. If you follow me, if you follow my work, if you consume my content, if you listen to a podcast episode, if you watch a YouTube video, if you read an email, if you like a post, that means your process doesn't work for you. I would like it to be the opposite, where people are self-actualized. I have coaching clients that are there who are happy in their jobs. But the truth is, if you are new here and you've never been inside of my program, your process doesn't work. So I'm naming for you that where we are in the world right now and what you are feeling is not your fault, but also too, it's your responsibility to address it. If you are one of those social workers who are like, the such and such association should be doing something about this, or employer should just know, da 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 da, da, I am not for you. I am not your person. Click off right now. Go find somebody else. I'm not your person. I am for the social worker who understands they have a problem. They are open to possible solutions, and they're willing to learn and unlearn what is no longer serving them. Okay. So I'm going to recap the three things that I named for you. You were trained to serve, not to compete in the job market. This is why you're feeling the pressure of all of the uncertainty under the new administration. Two, you felt like your job was always secure, but it wasn't. It was just low barrier. You didn't realize how susceptible you've been all of these years in that case management job, but is now just being brought up to the surface. But the truth is, your job could have ended at any moment years ago. Why? Because it's connected to funding that is heavily restricted. It's connected to an organization that does not know how to obtain funding outside of federal dollars and mandates and laws and acts. The third reason is because I want you to know that the job opportunities are still out there, but the process to get them is different than the process you use to get your social work job. The truth is, many social workers use the checklist to get their social work job. Your social work professor, mentor, supervisor told you, go on the job board, look for social worker. Or they may even told you to go on a certain organization, look for those jobs. Do this once you get a license or a credential. They will hire you. Once you got your first job, they then told you, put on your resume, manage a caseload. They're gonna hire you. You got your second job, you did that. You got your third case management job. But you are trying to use that same process to get jobs outside of social work organizations, industry settings, and it's not working. Because you, one, don't know how to find the jobs. Two, you don't know how to apply to the jobs. Three, you don't know how to competes in the job market to know how to answer the interview questions. And then once you get the job, you don't know how to advance in the industry, right? And so I'm laughing, but I'm serious. I'm laughing, but I'm serious. And I really want you to know that if you've been thinking there has to be another way, but I don't know where to start, I'm here to tell you today there is another way. That's what I teach social workers every single day. The other way, how to still make a living as a social worker, but outside of organizations that are connected to federal mandates, dollars, things like that. Largely because I am a systems person, right? And my coaching clients are. My coaching clients see issues within the systems where they deliver case management services, and they realize there's a lot of issues here. There's a lot of gaps and silos here. I want to do work to address that. And the organizations working to fix the system that is clearly broken does not get money that's used to fund the broken systems. They are two completely different worlds. One is opposing, that's where macro social workers are. One is upholding the system, that's where case management jobs fall. So I want you to understand that the changes that you're feeling, the reason it's feeling so overwhelming to you, you feel so much uncertainty, right? Because if you didn't feel uncertainty, when all of the changes started rolling out from the new administration, you would have just went to the job board, applied to another organization, got your job, you would be working there. But the truth is, you don't know how to do that. And I want to be clear because I feel like I'm ranting a little bit. Learning how to get jobs, well, getting jobs is a learned skill. It's not something that is innate within you. You don't come out of the womb knowing how to get a job. The knowledge that I have, I've amassed this knowledge over the last 25 years and perfecting it through a lot of trial and error, my trial and error, through a lot of tears, a lot of disappointment, a lot of rejection, a lot of denials, but also a lot of jobs secured. I progressively advanced my career in less than 2 years. I had a macro job within 2 years of graduate, well, 1 year, graduating with my MSW degree. That's unheard of for a non-traditional person like me, student like me. I wasn't, I didn't go to the White House in my graduate program. How could I do that? I had rent to pay, a child to raise, car notes to pay, things like that, groceries to get. But I still was able to fast track my career. So much so that I landed 3 macro jobs. My last one was with one of the oldest think tanks in Washington, D.C. And I've been able to replicate that with other social workers. One of my coaching clients, we just ended a coaching call. I'm gonna be talking about it all month because she follows what I tell them to the T. And she doesn't lit up because she trusts the process. She trusts the process. She has landed 2 macro job offers since January 2025. And she had a job offer at the end of 2025. Why? Because the moment the election results rolled in, which I think was on the 12th of November or something like that when I looked it up the other day, the next day I was meeting with my coaching clients and my past coaching clients, and I was telling them, hey, this is where things are going to change. This is how you need to shift in the strategies that you've learned, which I had already taught them. But I'm like, now it's time to kick into plan B system. This is what you can anticipate. This is how it's going to shift. This is how you avoid an interruption in your job. When I say interruption, this is how you avoid being laid off. This is how you avoid your job being eliminated. Start now. I have one coaching client, she did everything that I told my people to do back in November. And she was already making the most money she ever made in her career with her first macro job that she secured last year. But now she's making even more money than she's ever made in her career as a social worker. All because she listened. She, one, invested in herself in coaching. She invested in herself. She invested in herself. She never gave up. She had a little moment where she was feeling a little something in the beginning, which was confidence, but I worked with her through that. And she trusted the process and it's worked for her. She has had dozens of macro interviews. Dozens. So I say all that to say macro job opportunities are real. They were real prior to the new administration, and they're still real now, and they're actively hiring people. They're actually doubling down on their efforts. But I'm not here to convince you, I'm just here to inform you. So I'm gonna go because I got some stuff to do. But what I want you to do is drop down in the comment section if you're watching this video on YouTube. And I want you to tell me, what is your biggest concern right now regarding your job? I want to know your real concern. What is the biggest concern you have right now regarding your job? And don't just repeat something I said. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're thinking about. And if you're new here, be certain to grab my free e-course. It's in the bio. It's in the description page, description link at macroandpaid.com. Grab my free e-course. Learn everything that you can about what macro social work is, what it entails. Do you need a license? Don't you need a license? What types of salary ranges are out there? What industries are actively hiring macro social workers right now? I break all of that down in my free e-course. And for those who have been watching me for a while, I want you to know that I am gearing up for enrollment in the next cohort of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. It will begin at the end of the month of June. And if you join the wait list, you get a free invite to a private workshop that I'm having, a workshop that I've done with my coaching clients. Well, I'm going to do it with them this month. But what I'm going to be going over is sharing some of the strategies I started teaching my people at in the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, that's been fruitful for them to get employment, to stay employment, even under stay employed, even as a even under the new administration. I got a lot on my brain. I didn't eat lunch. Gotta go. So I gave you a few pieces of homework. Leave me a comment if you're watching this video on YouTube. Tell me what your aha moment was, key takeaway, reflection. But more than that, what I did ask you to do, tell me what your biggest concern is right now regarding your case management job. If you're feeling a little extra, tell me what your biggest concern is right now regarding the job market as a whole. What scares you? What keeps you up at night? If you're new here, grab the free e-course at macroandpaid.com. The link is below. And then what was the third one? Oh, if you're interested in coming into the next cohort, join the wait list. The wait list link is at macroandpaid.com. All right, I'm gonna go, y'all. Talk to y'all later. Happy macro career planning. Bye.